See how it has those little leaflets on the side of the main leaf? And these beautiful little purple flowers, and then they have green berries, but they're not berries, they're like tomatoes, so they go green to red, just like a tomato.
And is this considered a weed, or is this something that you would plant as like a ground cover?
I think it used to be considered an ornamental, but I think because of the toxicity, people consider it more as a weed now.
Mm-hmm. Ditches and like fence lines and just kind of randomly here and
It's
there.
really easy to get rid of. It is a perennial, so it holds on and it keeps growing or whatever. But yeah, you could grab the red berries when they're ripe and just squeeze it and it like shoots it out. But it smells funky. It has a funky smell to it, so you know as a kid not to eat it because you're
it's
like
the funky smell.
But it's pretty freaking toxic stuff. But I think there's two. Oh, it says it's a noxious weed right there.
Mm-hmm.
So like every state has a list of what is noxious, and it's determined through legislation. And then the nurseries can't grow it. So if it's on the noxious weed list.
So when they say noxious, like in my mind, there's a difference between noxious and like toxic. What would be the designation?
This is just saying it's...
like I read that and I'm like, it doesn't smell good.
Right. No, noxious more means as it's a invasive species.
So it proliferates via seed and or propagates via seed.
Toxicity.
Or roots or rhizomes, stolons. And I think it's just something that causes a lot of energy that has to be put into removing it. Therefore, it gets put on the list of, dude, this can get out of control real easy.
Some things make it on the list according to like livestock. So if like horses like to eat it or whatever and it makes them sick, it gets put on the list.
Yeah, good call, yeah.
But it doesn't have anything to do with us. Like we wouldn't eat it or because it would like grow out somewhere where free range animals could die from it. That's all that means. It's noxious. But there's certain, I don't even know where this page is from. I can't.
There's mountains in the background.
It could be us. No, those are way prettier mountains than
Legal
we got.
status in King County, Washington.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Yeah. King County, Washington.
So every state has a noxious weed list.
Mm-hmm. I remember Barb would talk about the blackberries and whatnot that would get out of control along the riparian areas in Washington.
Riparian.
Yeah, the King County.
I totally have no idea what that means.
Along riverways and kind of like on the floodplains, I guess. Yeah.
Marshland.
Yeah.
I like how you gave the nod though. Like
yeah, riparian.
Yeah, totally.
The riparian era.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Back in the early 1600s.
Right. Oh, is that when it was?
I had to learn that through like some of my design courses. Like I'd never heard it before. Riparian. What the heck does that mean? So it'd be like in the canyon where you have different species soaking up lots of water and you wouldn't have it out in the valley. So
the birch and the
it's
the
a very
water birch
specific kind of ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
When I do this, that means
the grouping of
chickens. I actually do have some questions for you.
Wonderful.
Because of just things that I've maybe seen in the past. Since we both do podcasts, I wanted to know why you started one.
Why did I started the podcast in 2016, I think. What it was at the time I was very much into energy work and energy healing. I was doing a lot of work with people, like spiritual fairs and all sorts of stuff. And I was meeting a ton of people, like new people that I had never met before. Because this was completely like outside of what my life was prior to this time period, right? I didn't frequent spiritual fairs or hang out with people that were energy healers or anything like that. It was completely new to me. So I was meeting all of these people, and they were very cool. I just, they're very down-to-earth, normal people. I liked them. We got along. I thought they were interesting, and I wanted a way to highlight them. I wanted a way to humanize the aspect of energy healing and spiritual work, because I think that it has a big stigma attached to it in the broader sense of culture, where people think of it as the people that, believe in crystals or stones or healing or anything like that are crazy, or that they, they're not, that they're just weird, basically. And I was meeting all of these weird people who aren't weird, just normal, everyday people. So I wanted a way to highlight them. And originally I thought of doing like short, 3-5 minute long videos on YouTube, just little quick interviews, and then kick them out onto a YouTube channel and highlight people that way. And I spent like a day trying to figure out what that would entail. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. There's no way that's going to happen, because the technical requirements for that I didn't have. I didn't have the equipment, I didn't have the know-how, I didn't have any editing software, I didn't have anything at all. So I threw that out the window. And then I had a buddy of mine, actually, Randy Palmer. You
Okay,
know Randy?
yeah.
Yeah.
I just liked his group today. The Sobriety.
Yeah. So Randy lives in North Dakota, but he was back in Utah, and he, at the time, he was dinking around with starting a podcast and doing stuff. And so he came out and he was like, hey, I want to interview you for this podcast I'm going to do. I'm like, okay. So he comes over to the house and we sit down at the kitchen table and he interviews me for a podcast. And he gets done and he leaves. And I'm like, that was super cool. I really, really liked that. And I was talking to Steph. Steph's my wife. And I'm like, I think that's what I want to do. I think that's a good idea. And she's like, yeah, you need to do that. Like, idiot, go do that right now. So then I spent like the next month researching and educating myself on what it was and what it would take. And I got a small little loan from my brother to initially come up with all the equipment and all the gear and everything that I needed. And then I just went for it. And so that's why I started back in the day, was to highlight people in the realm of spirituality and energy healing as a way to normalize it. That was the idea in the beginning, and then the podcast just has like perpetually evolved from there. But yeah.
So see, you told me that he interviewed you before. I did not know that was before you started your podcast. Like, that was your like inspiration to start. Was him.
The Randy thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, like I said, I had that idea of like, I should do these YouTube videos, and then it went away because I couldn't figure out how to make it happen. And it wasn't long after that kind of time period that he was out and he came over to the house. And I wasn't really a fan of podcasts before then. I had listened to them, periodically, but I was not a podcast listener. I didn't subscribe to any podcasts. I wasn't really in that space of podcasting at all. And then when he interviewed me, we did that little interview afterwards. I'm just like, wow, I really, really liked that. And I liked I liked being able to have a long conversation with somebody about whatever the heck you guys wanted to talk about at the time. I liked learning about people, all these kind of different things that just was like, I really, really am interested in that. And so, I think the first month I released something like 10 or 15 episodes in a month.
Whoa.
And I did exactly everything that you're not supposed to do in the beginning of starting a podcast, because I didn't know better. And so if I had to start over, I would have had a bank of like 10 episodes done that I could just slowly release every week and then keep that backlog so I was never behind. I didn't do that. I just would go and record an interview, come home and edit it, release it the next day, go record an interview, edit it, release the next day. A lot of times I was recording multiple interviews in a day. So I would go and meet all these people and coordinate times and set them all up. And yeah, it was nuts. I was releasing like 3 or 4 episodes a week for probably the first 2 months.
Yes.
And
we never made that mistake.
it's a huge mistake.
But what we would do was we would get together, meet, record 1 episode, I'd release it, and then we'd come back again every week. So we were meeting every week.
Well, and
it's just too much time.
It seems like it was just kind of like whenever we could get together. So it was sometimes a Tuesday, Friday, whatever. And so it wasn't consistent. Like, boom, you're releasing on the same day every week.
The first episodes I deleted and then redid them, and they're like right next to each other, like back to back. But when we first did it, I don't know why. I can't remember exactly why. But we tried to do like a plant spotlight is what we started doing. And we've kind of like, I've tried to do that a little bit on the live stream.
That's super cool.
When we don't record. It's just totally different than when we started.
So I've got a question for you. So that your first interview with Randy, was that on energy, or not so much? It was just like
that's a good question.
I'm trying to remember what he wanted to kind of, because he interviewed me.
Yeah.
And so
what was his main podcast topic, or not topics, but like overall?
At the time, Randy was doing a lot of work in regards to like self-help and coaching, and kind of diving into why we do what we do, what makes us tick.
Cool.
He does a lot of work in recovery and working with people in recovery and everything like that. So I think him and I, anytime Randy and I, and that's the weird thing is this kid, he grew up in the same small town that Blaine and I grew up in, and his older brother was our age. So we grew up with his older brother, and I knew Randy because it's that small town and you know everybody, but Randy and I weren't friends. We didn't hang out. Do you know what I mean? It's not like Randy and I ever spent any time together. And then for whatever reason, we started hanging out as adults for, I'm trying to remember, it was jiu-jitsu. We used to train in jiu-jitsu. We used to go over to Robbie's basement, and I would teach jiu-jitsu. And
you would teach?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Keep going.
Well, that's how Randy and I hooked up. And every time after that, when he would be in town, we would kind of try to hook up and hang out, just because we had wonderful conversations. Like him and I have super deep, introspective conversations, and he's very good at challenging me, and I'm very good at challenging him. And so that's kind of, I think, why he wanted to, interview me for the podcast. Unfortunately, I don't think he ever did anything with that. So
he never started a podcast?
No, I don't think he ever did.
Bummer.
Yeah, he had, good intentions and everything like that, but
he probably could now.
Yeah, he definitely could now. And I've bugged him over the years. I'm like, yeah, it's really easy. It's hard, but you just have to do it, and then it's really, really easy. So that was my first podcast interview.
You should get it. Be like, dude.
I think he gave it to me once.
Oh,
yeah.
And put it out on yours?
No, I think I just listened to it.
Oh.
I should. I don't remember what happened to it.
I think that'd be awesome to listen to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing. I want to get my mom and just record her, have conversations with her, just so I have it, somewhere.
You know what I did once? I took all my gear to our family reunion, and I had all my cousins come and sit down, and we talked about our grandparents, because at the time it was my mom's side of the family, and so we all got together. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if it was shortly. It wasn't after, a grandparent had passed away or so. Oh, it was. Honestly, I don't remember. I could sit here and wander in my head trying to remember what it was. Anyways, all my cousins took turns coming over and sitting down, and we all just shared memories of our grandparents, memories that we had growing up and all that kind of stuff. And then I just took all of that and cut it into a little episode so they were all pieced together like I normally would, and then just distributed it to the family so they
That's
all
way
kind
cool.
of had those memories and things like that.
Well, so my parents are old now. My dad just turned.
We're old, Blaine.
I know, but they're older. I mean, if they had us, my dad just had his 75th birthday, and so it's I need to talk to him more, because the last time I saw him, we went and played golf. That's what we do, and we suck, but who cares? I get to spend time with my dad, and he was telling me stories that I've never heard before. I'm like, come on, you gotta give me the juice.
Recorder. Yeah, right then.
Yeah, jeez. I can't remember what he was talking about. His dad. Stuff about his dad. And I was like, now I can't remember exactly what he said, but I'm like, he's never told me that before. And that's what I want. I want those little tidbits of information that I can pass, because I can't remember it all. But if I can record it, then at least maybe one day my kids could listen to it and pass it on to them. I made for my wife's, I can't remember if it was her birthday or she was out of town or something, but I made all my kids do it. Just give a message to their mom.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And send it to her, and they dug it. She dug it. They dug it. Now they don't want to. Every time I'm in here, they're putting the headsets on and can you hear me? Can you hear me? Ask me a question. So yeah, they want to keep doing it.
Real quick, the name of your podcast is
Energy is Love.
Energy is Love.
Yeah.
Okay.
Energy is
cool.
Love podcast.
That's really cool, because if you, at least for me, when I first think of that, I think of doing the dishes and how that can transform into, I'm doing them to keep the kitchen clean, whatever, but in a way it's kind of like me showing my love for my family.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the massive amount of energy that we expend doing a lot of things is because we love our family.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So where did you come up with the name?